I'd like to thank everybody for coming to tonight's Board of Zoning meeting of May 25th. I'll call the meeting to order at 6:30. Would everyone please rise for the pledge? Board members, please make sure your mics are on. And a Zoom check. Can everybody on Zoom hear? All right, got a thumbs up. Andy, will you take us to the roll, please?
Dan Justice.
Here.
Earl Bolander.
Here.
Amanda Jeschke.
Here.
Rick is absent and Nathan Sturdevant.
Here.
Okay, let's see. First order of business is approving the meeting minutes of April 2023. Has the board had an opportunity to look over these? Okay. Do we have any, well, hold on here. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll move to approve the minutes for April 27th.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, minutes pass. Going on to new business. The first case up tonight is case number SE 01-2023. SEC Broadway Street and Ohio Street Shell Gas Station. It's to consider a petition for a special exception to allow a gas station use at the southeast corner of Broadway Street and Ohio Street on approximately 1.57 acres. I guess, Adam, I should have asked if there was any additions to this before I move you into that presentation. There's not. Okay. All right. Well, will you take us through the presentation on this one, please?
Sure. Thank you. Again, for the record, I'm Adam Zaklikowski, the Planning and Building Director for the town of Fortville. As Ms. Jeschke mentioned, this particular case is for a special exception for a Shell gas station. And she had mentioned that it'd be located at the southeast corner of Broadway and Ohio Street. And it's just a little bit above 1.5 acres in size. There's 2 parcels. The petitioner tonight is John Cross of Wooden and Hoy, LLC, on behalf of VR Empire, LLC, managed by Ravi Singh. The current owner on the property is Ella Collins Living Trust. And the zoning on the property is commercial community, CC. It's currently a vacant site. And I'll show a street view image here shortly. Simply put, VR Empire LLC would like to develop this gas station, and a special exception for this use is required from the BZA per the zoning ordinance. So just a quick overview. In the zoning ordinance in Fortville, as is customary in zoning ordinances in many jurisdictions, there are certain uses that are allowed outright in a given zoning district, and there are other uses that they sometimes are called conditional uses. In this case, we call them special exceptions, which basically means that they can potentially be allowed in that zoning district, but it needs approval by the Board of Zoning Appeals, usually because that particular use might have additional considerations that warrant public review or board approval and a review and approval, or consideration, I should say. So if we take a look at the aerial photo and the parcel map, you can see the property outlined in yellow. Over to is really right outside of our building here. Off to the south is the Genesis Plastics welding plant. Over to the northeast is the Colonial Village neighborhood that was built in the 50s. Now over to the east, there is an existing residential home. It's zoned light industrial. Property's a rental. And then we'll show the zoning map momentarily, but a lot of the property in that area is also light industrial. And then of course, across the street on Broadway, there is some commercial uses. As we move along, this is an oblique aerial of the project, of the property. Certainly we can refer to this as need be. My understanding is there was a restaurant on the property at one time, many years ago, and I think the pad is still there, what you see. And then here's a street view image of what you would see from Broadway looking towards the site. So again, in terms of that, the zoning in the area, as I mentioned, the zoning here is commercial community. If we look to the east, there is the light industrial land that I spoke of. The Colonial Village subdivision is zoned residential 3.5. So really to the north of the site, you do have residentially zoned land. And then off to the south is additional industrial I-1 grandfathered zoning. Here is the concept site plan. The concept site plan at this point is really just for information only as to how the site could be laid out. This would, if this were to be approved by the BZA, the Plan Commission, the next step is they would have to approve the concept site plan, concept lighting, concept landscaping, and concept building elevations. But again, this shows how it could be laid out. In terms of the remonstrance or public input on this particular item, first, all public hearing notice requirements have been met. And that would include a sign posting, a newspaper publication. It was in the Greenfield Reporter, as well as a mailing to nearby property owners. That's all been done. We did receive one letter. I received a letter from Mr. Bill Beaver. He lives at 859 East Broadway Street. That letter is included in your packet, and he expressed some concern about access points, traffic, and potential collisions. And we can certainly discuss that in more detail if you like. In terms of the staff analysis, a lot of it is based on the suggested findings or the approval criteria for special exceptions, which is outlined in the zoning ordinance and is also based on Indiana code. There's a variety of different items that the board is asked to take a look at, and we'll go through those right now as soon as let's see. So the first question is the special exception listed in the zoning ordinance? It is. Second item is the special exception can be served with adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, or other necessary facilities. That would appear to be the case. Third item is the special exception shall not involve any element or cause any condition that may be dangerous, injurious, or noxious to any other property or persons and shall comply with the development standards of the zoning ordinance. No particular issue there. Fourth item is that the special exception is sorted, oriented, and landscaped to produce a harmonious relationship of buildings and grounds to adjacent buildings and properties. The text here in yellow is my professional opinion, and what I'd say is that the proposed use will develop a vacant and derelict site at the corner of an arterial and major collector roadway. It's also adjacent to an industrial building, and it's outside of the Old Town area where new gas stations are actually prohibited. And then it should be noted that buffer yards will be required as part of this project. On the north side, it'd have to be a 25-foot buffer yard. On the east side, have to be 20 feet. And then on the south, it would have to be 20 feet as well. And there are a variety of landscaping requirements in terms of number of shrubs, trees that would need to be planted. And in some circumstances, fencing may be needed as well. So back to the list, number 5, the special exception produces a total visual impression and environment, which is consistent with the environment of the neighborhood. Don't believe there are any particular issues there. Sixth item is the special exception organizes vehicular access and parking to minimize traffic congestion in the neighborhood. Don't believe there conceptually would be any issues with that. Should be noted that the existing access points that you see out onto the site are not grandfathered. So those would be reviewed as part of the next step in the process. Of course, they would need to acquire an NDOT right-of-way permit since it's on Broadway, US 36. But generally speaking, the access points, you want to have them limited and you want to keep them as far away from the intersection as possible. So if we go back to the concept site plan, I think they've done that. As you can see, they would reduce the 2 access points down to 1. And then another access point is considered on Ohio, but they're pulled back as far as possible from the intersection. But again, we'd look at that in more detail as part of the site plan scope of the review. Right now, we're just asking the board, the petitioner is asking the board as to whether or not this particular use is an acceptable use at this location. Going back to the list, and we just got a couple more items. Number 7, that the special exception preserves the purpose of the zoning ordinance. Again, no perceived issues there. And that was the last issue. It goes up to 7. So with that, my recommendation would be to approve it. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address those. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Does the board have any questions of Adam at this point? Okay. All right. So we have a specific order in which we do the rest of this. We're going to ask the petitioner if they're here tonight to come up and add any additional information to this. Is the petitioner here? Okay, good. If you'll say and spell your name and how you represent the case, please.
Thank you and good evening. My name is John Cross, attorney for the petitioner. My address is 13 North State Street, 241, Greenfield, Indiana. And the request is relatively straightforward. We are seeking a special exception for the permitted use of a gas station at this location. A convenience store will be operated as well if approved. And as Adam noted, and a convenience store would be permitted as is. It is just the gas station use that requires the special exception, which by ordinance is a permitted special exception if approved by the board here tonight. Some more details on the intent of the operation of the convenience store and the gas station, which was submitted with the application originally. There would be 6 pumping stations that would front Broadway. The convenience store would be open 7 days a week. The hours would be from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. So this would not be a 24-hour gas station convenience store. The property is zoned CC, and I did note as well that the future land use map in the comprehensive plan does categorize the property as industrial. So not only do we believe that it is consistent use of the current zoning ordinance, but also would be consistent with the future land map use as well found in the comprehensive plan. The property, like you said, is just baseball throws from here, just north. The closest gas stations from that location are just under a half mile away, the Huxton and the Speedway, just west down Broadway. There was a letter of remonstrance submitted by Mr. Beaver, who did indicate that due to the recent expansion and residential development in the area, he has noticed an uptick in traffic. We would hope that the residential development that's closer in proximity to this gas station could help alleviate some of the traffic that would go down to the gas stations at Huxton Speedway, which should possibly help with the traffic flow in and out. Also with the traffic flow, because it is on an intersection, it does provide the opportunity for 2 access and egress points, which would be better than just having one access point on one road, as that would alleviate the amount of cars that are entering one point of location and the other. And upon driving around the site today, the 30 Broadway does have the shoulders on it that does provide, I believe, adequate spacing for turns to avoid collisions. for cars entering it and leaving it. I did note as well that the stoplight to the south does provide some adequate traffic flow that does provide ample opportunities for cars to turn both east and west onto Broadway. So understanding the concerns, we don't believe that a use of a gas station with a convenience store would increase traffic flow or cause accidents. Of course, that would never be the intent of the project. And while a traffic study was not obtained for this specific project, we have obtained them for other projects in the past that would entail a gas station and convenience store. And the results are typically the same findings, that a use of a gas station and convenience store do not typically generate solo individual trips themselves, meaning that people won't leave their house specifically to go get gas or go to the convenience store at that location. What they'll do is those who are passing by on their regular commute, or those who are already driving somewhere, would then either pass by it and stop or go a little bit out of their way. But typically convenience stores and gas stations don't generate one-off trips. So we don't believe that there would be, again, an uptick in traffic in the area. So there would be no belief that there would be any cause of negative impact on traffic. With that said, I know there's only so much we can do with respect to Broadway in Ohio, but with the access points for turning in, turning out, if there'd be any suggestions or commitments for adequate space or the curbs for providing adequate turn lanes, I know that we'd be happy to agree to any commitments with respect to that to help alleviate any concerns that there are. But to keep this relatively brief, we are, of course, of the same page as Adam's presentation. We do believe that the conditions have been met for approval. And with staff's report, we would respectfully request approval of the same. And that said, I would be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you. Don't leave yet. Board, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
I do have one. You talked a little bit about the C-store and gas station, and I agree that's typically a pass-by operation. But on the site plan, you show 4 additional suites.
Yes.
Is there any anticipated, because those may be traffic generators, and so that goes to the 6th item that we're going to discuss that we have to look at. And so if we have substantial traffic, if this is a mixed use, what we typically see with a gas station is like a fast food quick service, something like that, that could generate traffic that changes the equation. So are there any anticipated uses at this time?
With respect to the suites, I believe that maybe somebody from the petitioner could be here present to discuss, but my understanding is that won't be something that has invitations for customers to come into. That would be administrative uses, ancillary to the use. So that would be part of the employee use that wouldn't be generating any extra traffic.
Oh, okay.
So the suites are actually ancillary to the convenience store.
Okay.
Okay. And Adam, to circle back around real quick, that probably comes back to either building or site plan review or whatever to dig more into that.
Yes. Every use naturally has a minimum parking requirement.
Okay.
And to the extent that we know what the uses are at the onset, when the concept site plan moves forward, then we account for that. If there are, in the case of some of these suites, if they happen to be just a shell, sometimes they're shell spaces, and then later in the future, another use may come in, then as staff, we would have to make sure that that particular use, whether it's another store or a personal services spot, that they have enough parking that
Okay.
goes in there.
Which may already quote be allowed, whatever this spaces we rented out, or may require, again, come before us for a special exception.
Right, potentially.
Could, right.
Potentially, yes. Or if there was a low probability scenario by which a user wanted to go into one of those suites and there was not enough parking on the site, They could seek a variance through this board, or it could be approved or denied. So the bottom line is there is a system of checks and balances for
Okay.
future uses.
For
there.
future. All right. All right. Thank you. Does anyone else here on the board have questions for our petitioner?
So what you're saying, Adam, is those 4 suites there, I mean, that's a total of 7,000 square feet there. And he's saying they're going to give it to their employees. That's hard for me to swallow there, but if they want, they would have to get approval of what they put in there through us.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you as well that
I've never seen.
not discounting
no.
your point,
I've
but
never
that
seen a
is,
gas
that
station
is
with-
unusual
That's very unusual.
as well, that it would either be if the idea is to develop the entire building for a convenience store, then it would show, the full 10,500 square foot under roof for that use. I can only speak with what I've seen over the years, is that if they're showing a separate suite, that usually that's to be rented out for another use. But again, to answer your question, it would still need to be evaluated at a minimum by staff, at a maximum, depending on the use. The Board of Zoning Appeals, if they needed a variance.
And to clarify what I'm saying, because I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to mischaracterize what the intent is. I'm under no impression that the office suites will be used for anything that's inconsistent or not allowed by the zoning ordinance. If that was the case, then they clearly would have requested permission to do so at tonight's hearing. So my understanding is the request is specifically, we're focusing on the special exception as the gas station, which is not a permitted use. So I believe that the office suites are connected to the business. I don't know exactly how the plan is to use them, if it's for suites related to the administrative employees, storage or whatnot. So I don't have the details specifically as to that. But again, my understanding is it is in no way inconsistent with what the ordinances permit.
I've got another question.
All right, thank you.
I want to clarify something. So what we're voting on would simply be the pumps,
Essentially, yes.
because they could come in and go ahead and build this convenience store without any pumps and not have to come in front of this board.
They would not have to come in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals. That's correct. They would still have to go to the Plan Commission for approval of the site plan. So there'd still be a public review component to it.
Okay.
But yes, to answer your question, it's really the pumps that are out in front and the use as a gas
Okay.
filling facility that is requiring your approval.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, I'll ask you to have a seat. Don't go too far because we probably have you back up to answer some more questions. We now have time in the agenda for our public response. Now, the way this works is you'll come to the mic, say and spell your name and your address, please. If you've heard a prior comment or concern already stated, saying it twice doesn't make it any less or any more valid to us. Just go ahead and pass and let the next person. And we try to keep all of this to about 15-20 minutes. So, and you can speak for, against, or comments or concerns. So is there anyone tonight that would like to speak on this project? All right, come on up to the mic. There's got to be a first person. That's all right.
I am Lisa Louder, Leesa Lowder. I live at 835 East Broadway. So basically, this would just be across the street. I do not know everything that was in Mr. Beaver's conversation via email, but I kind of am in step with that. Just based on the increase in activity with vehicular traffic, foot traffic, we've had a couple of fatalities in the last year, and I would just be concerned about increasing that potential for business. We also have the new lofts that are going to be bringing in traffic, and that puts it right there at that critical point between CJ's Hair Company, Ohio Street, and then trying to get on and off of 67. And so I don't know what that looks like for traffic management, but I would anticipate that that's going to create more slowdowns, more traffic, more potential for accidents, things like that. that would have to be addressed. And then I do wonder what the utility of having yet a fourth gas station in it's like a 3/4 mile strip right here through town that we've got the Speedway and Hucks. BP is under construction, and now we're talking about adding a fourth. I just don't understand necessarily what the use of having the gas station would bring, what value that would bring to the area, but aside what has been already spoken of tonight. The final thing I would just ask for consideration is the foot traffic. There are going to be more people walking back and forth along 67 to come for, 10 PM slushy, whatnot. So just a consideration about what that looks like, how we're going to handle that foot traffic. That brings a lot more foot traffic in front of my house personally. And also all of those that live along Broadway there. We've already seen an uptick in that and things that come along with that traffic, but just a consideration for what that looks like for the local people that are going to be dealing with all of these areas. And then does it have any effect on our resale value for those of us that, may want to be looking at real estate changes in the near future? So I think that pretty much covers everything.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We've got some notes and we'll get those answers here in a bit. Is there anyone else that would like to come up for, against, comments or concerns? All right. Please say and spell your name and your address, please.
Joyce Beaver, Beaver, address 859 East Broadway Street. So right down the road. I have the same concerns that Lisa just talked about. Mostly the traffic. And I'm mainly concerned about those 4 suites. I'd like to know what's going in there because, like you asked, if there are 4 different businesses, like nail salon or any kind of businesses, that would add a lot of traffic there. And there's already a lot of businesses right there anyway. There's a lawyer, there's a dentist, there's an eye doctor. And I also have those concerns about the foot traffic. Broadway Street is pretty dangerous, actually. And she mentioned the 2 accidents. Well, one of those was my own son about 18 months ago, trying to turn into our driveway. And a young lady, like 17 years old, hit him from behind going 50 miles an hour because people don't pay attention when somebody, other people are going around, and she just ran right into him with my 22-month-old grandson in the back seat. So she totaled both cars. It was pretty traumatic, and my son had to wear a collar around his neck. So I do have concerns, and we've lived here 37 years. And just these last 2 years is when we've had those 2 big accidents. And the second accident, there were 2 fatalities. I don't remember when that was. It's only been about 6 months ago or even that long. And I just don't understand, like Lisa said, if we need a 3rd gas station when the other 2 are like a half a mile. And like my husband said in his letter, we're not against progress in Fortville. We're just very, very concerned about the traffic and the resale value of our property. And like I said, we've lived here 37 years. See if I had anything else. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. All right. Do we have anyone else? All right.
My name is Michael Kraus. Last name spelled Crouse. I own the property of Fortville Feeders and ITS Parts Automation that's just to the south. I own the industrial lot that's just to the east, 2.5 acres next to the houses. I own the lot that's right across the street on Ohio Street that come to a point to 67. And we all don't, none of us that I know of reject developing the site. Wish you the best. Absolutely. We would like to invite Adam to a meeting with the other landowners around it that are all waiting for something to come along for that site there. Truly is. And could it be developed differently to make everybody happy? Because it will cause a traffic with Industrial Drive here. Ohio Street is already backed up at times when the everybody gets off of work over here. And I'd also like to remind you on the drainage. The front swales already are full of water during a storm. Can't handle any more hard surface out there. So I don't know if that would go into the back pond or not, but we just think there could be a different use for it, even with the filling station, the way it's shaped and laid out. Got the angle street of Ohio Street coming in, which is a terrible way to come into an intersection like that. That could all be possibly fixed. So we're just asking Adam to maybe reach out and we organize a meeting between all the landowners there to see if something else could be done or should be done. And but me personally, whatever happens, I'm happy to see something happen there. All right.
Right, thank you. All right, do we have anyone else with any new concerns that we haven't heard already? Okay, we're going to have the petitioner come back up and address, oh, hold on. Hold on. Do we have any, sorry, do we have any government officials that have any comments for or against? Okay, they're shaking their heads. All right, now we're ready for the petitioner to come back up and address any of these concerns that you've heard.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for your comments. Brief notes on what I heard and can address. Concerns regarding foot traffic that this would increase. I know that there's already a CVS across the way on the other side of Broadway, so I'm not sure if that already creates comparable foot traffic or not. Like I said earlier, petitioner is open to any commitments. I think that all that we can really do with that respect, if it's a concern, is to install sidewalks on the actual property. I know that there's not sidewalks to connect to, but that's what we are limited to able to do. So that's a commitment that could be agreed to if it would be required to help with the increase of the traffic of foot traffic. The bottom line is this property can be developed. Again, it could be a convenience store, cannot be a gas station without being approved for a special exception. So we're really trying to look at what is a good use and is a gas station an acceptable use for the location of this property. And again, we feel that it is. The concerns are very well noted, especially with the traffic. It almost sounds like there's a greater problem already existing, given the fatality and the other accidents that were mentioned. So again, petitioner would be willing to do anything that would be suggested, either by NDOT or you here tonight, that could help with the flow of traffic. Again, we do think that the two access points are appropriate, but when we can consider how else this property could be used or developed in other manners, again, if it was a restaurant previously, that could always entail more customers than are typically at a gas station or a convenience store. In my experience, I daily drive by a gas station that is on a busy street that gets backed up a lot. And while I do notice an uptick in some traffic of people coming in and out, I don't notice anything that has caused any traffic issues with it. If anything, it's almost the opposite, where people now expect traffic to be going in and out of the gas station. So it's almost a deterrent when you come up to it because you're expecting it to happen. I don't know if that would be the case here or not, because we cannot always predict other humans. We can only do what we can do to protect ourselves and hope that that's the case. But if there would be anything that could be done for on the site the petitioner has control over, again, they'd be more than happy to make any commitments that could help with the flow of traffic. Again, the point is to spread out the access points as far away from the intersection to help alleviate that. Again, the two access points will provide more ability to access it and exit it without disrupting the flow of traffic as much as possible. But understanding that there are concerns, there would be open to any suggestions that the board would have or to work with NDOT towards, proper resolutions. I don't know if there's plans at that intersection for a stoplight. I'd presume that there's not, or a four-way stop, but again, that's out of our control, but something that they'd be willing to work with to help if needed. With respect to concerns on drainage, again, this lot can be developed without any sort of special exceptions, which would probably include pavement and whatnot. Drainage concerns have to be approved on the permitting side. So even if this is accepted, the permits still have to be approved. So if there's negative drainage impacts, those permits won't be approved. And so they'd have to go back to the drawing board. So I understand the concern, but I know that there are, again, checks and balances to make sure that there's no negative impact on drainage if it would go forward. And I did kind of mention in my original presentation regarding the convenience of this gas station, given the residential expansion on the northeast side. Again, I do realize that there are 2 more gas stations less than a half mile away, but even when I drove in tonight and drove west on Broadway, it was clear that that immediately was backing up at the light. Looks like there's some construction going on. So again, this would just provide a more convenient location on the northeast side for the expansive residential neighborhoods to conveniently get gas and those for passerby. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm going to come back now to questions or clarifications from the board to either Adam or any follow-up from the petitioner. Do anybody have any?
I do have one for the petitioner. If this does not, if we don't approve, and I know we're just approving the gas pumps, if we do not approve the pumps, would there still be plans to build a convenience store?
That I do not know. Currently, the property is under contract to be bought, so the petitioner does not yet own it. I'm not involved in the transactional side, so I don't know if the agreement's contingent on this getting approved or not. So if it is not approved, I would not know if there have been any plans to go through.
Okay,
If there are, with those plans, if they would change, I personally would imagine it would not be a convenience store, but that's just my personal belief. So I do not know.
okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Anyone else here? Okay, Adam, how should we have 7 points here. Do I take them one at a time? Do we do these all in one group?
No, those are simply, it's simply your approval criteria. It doesn't, you don't need to vote on each of those 6 or 7 items.
Okay, all right.
The only item you would vote on is the overall
Overall,
special exception.
okay. Okay, so I'm looking for a board member to either approve or approve with conditions or deny this request.
I do have some clarification for Adam.
All right, let's hold.
If we were to table this, would you be okay with going out and talking to some of the neighbors or getting in contact with them? As Mr. Kraus has suggested,
Yeah, I can certainly do that.
because I'd really like to have their feedback for the area there. I know it's just to do with the pumps, but that access on Ohio Street is,
It is a busy intersection.
yeah, well, just the intersection at 67 and Ohio Street, that is very.
I mean, I'm certainly open and willing to meet with anybody, that's for sure. What I would say is, I know Mr. Kraus's, I think his relative son maybe had called me about it. And I didn't fully understand what the intent was. I know they own the land north of there, and it sounded like, I think the question was, would the town, or at least would planning, be open to, realigning that intersection? And simply put, I said, well, I'm open to any sort of proposal to take a look at it, but other than that, I'm not sure what exactly they want my role to be, because there's no particular proposal that's put forward. So, but that being said, I'm always willing to listen and help wherever I can.
Would those concerns be more towards like the design review board? Once, if it does get passed tonight,
or site review or,
It seems like a lot of this would be for the plan commission. I think there's some valid concerns here. I think the special exception is like, as you mentioned originally, that we're really just talking about the pumps.
right?
The
right?
site plan should evaluate traffic, should evaluate drainage. Many of the concerns that came up tonight, and I think that we could start having some of those conversations, maybe plan for that at the site, at the plan commission stage.
But if any one of us have a concern that this is not the best use for this site because of traffic, by the time we pass it or not pass it, and it's already then pushed on to the next, and then it's already been approved to have a gas station, and then now we're locked into just making it work as far as traffic flow. Is that true?
We're just voting on the special exception to allow the 6 pumps.
Yes.
Simply, I mean, that is,
That's true, but we can't lose sight of what's coming down the pike to have to vote on, or,
Amanda, I'll weigh in as well. I
Thank
mean, I agree. This is just on the use. And so based on the statutory standards that Adam ran through in his presentation, considering those factors, is this site appropriate for this use, the pumps? The plan, the site plan, the site development, what the layout of it, that's, as has been said, the plan commission's domain to see if it works, to say what you just said, Amanda.
okay. All right, thank you. Okay, do I have any other comments or questions before we go to a motion? Not, I'm looking for, again, a motion to approve with conditions, or deny.
I will make a motion for case number SE 01-2023, southeast corner of Broadway Street and Ohio Street, to approve the special exception for pumps on the site.
All right, do I have a second? Great, now what do I do?
If
I
there's,
don't-
if there's
now
no
what?
second, then the motion fails.
Sorry, say that one more time.
If there's no second, then the motion fails.
I'd like to move to table this till the next meeting so that Adam can get a little bit more feedback from the neighboring
Right.
property owners.
Community. Can we do that, Alex?
Cam?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. I guess we're going to table this until Adam has an opportunity to meet with some of the community members, neighbors around the area. So if any of you are interested in that, you're going to have to contact Adam's office. And I guess hand that over to him at this point. All right, so let's go to then the next item on our agenda. That was an interesting one. I've never had it go like that before. The next one up is a variance 05-2023 at 223 West Garden Street, metal pole barn / garage. Adam, would you please give us the presentation?
All right. Next item on the agenda is 223 West Garden Street. This would be on the north side between Swan Drive and Peach Blossom Drive. Of course, I'll show some maps here in a minute. The owners and petitioners of this request is Randy and Sharon Chapel, and the zoning on the property is residential 3.5. They currently own it and reside in the home as a single-family residential home. So specifically, their request before you tonight is Randy Chapel would like to construct about a 1,600 square foot metal pole barn or garage as an accessory structure in the rear yard of his property to work on his vehicles and for storage. And in order to do so as desired, he's seeking a variety of variances. Take a look here at the aerial photos. You can see the property up along Garden Street. Over to the northwest is the Elite Beverages building. There's also some residential neighbors on both sides along Garden Street. And then backing up to the property is a used car lot. Again, moving on to the oblique aerial, you can get another view of the property. We can always refer back to these if we need to. Yeah, that screen's a little bit temperamental. I don't know what the issue is there. And then here is a street view photo from November of last year, the property. Taking a look at the zoning map here, you can see again, it's residential 3.5, everything in beige. It's 3.5 across the street to the south in the Old Bridge neighborhood. That's zoned residential 2.5. And the areas in red are zoned like the last project, commercial community CC. Here is a concept of what the petitioner's building would look like. Here's kind of another version that was taken off of the estimate for the project. Here's a basic site plan for where the building would sit in the rear yard. I do want to note that there is a town water main that's actually on the private property. It's in this area here, where the cursor is. It's on the west side. And it's about, and speaking with the town manager today, it's about 10 or 15 feet away from the west property line, runs parallel to it. It's been there for a very long time, very long time. In terms of the color scheme of the building, you can see here this beige is what the color of the body of the building would be. And then this brown is the intended color of the roof. So in terms of the variances requested, this would be based on the Fortville zoning ordinance that was last revised in January of this year. And as you know, some of you may know the pole barn standards, metal building standards were enhanced as part of that rewrite. So there's a whole host of variances that he would need in order to build the building as desired. So just to give a quick rundown of those. Number one, a pole barn metal building is technically prohibited in our 3.5 zoning. Secondly, an accessory structure shall be no larger than 50% of the area of the primary structure. And this proposed building is about 1,600 square feet. The house is a little over 1,400 square feet. So therefore, in keeping with the code, without a variance, the garage could not exceed 714 square feet. The garage would be required to have 9-inch roof overhangs, of which it is not as proposed. It would have to have 1x4 window trim as required, of which it is not as proposed. It would have to have a minimum 6 to 12 roof pitch. This is a not as steep of a slope. Garage door windows would be required under the zoning ordinance. And then the height of the accessory structure cannot exceed the height of the principal structure. The heights are pretty comparable here, but they may be different by a few feet. So acting in the conservative sense, that was thrown in here. And then lastly, a paved driveway is required for new projects. So this would be an expansion of a gravel driveway is what he's seeking. Although they may or may not pave it in the future, but they want to have the ability to do gravel at least initially. In terms of the remonstrance to this request, again, all public hearing notice requirements have been met in terms of a sign posting, newspaper publication of a legal ad in the Greenfield Reporter, and then a mailing to nearby property owners. And at least at this time, we're not aware of any remonstrance to this particular variance. In terms of the decision criteria for this variance, again, much like a special exception, it is based on Indiana code. The text in yellow is my opinion, a staff opinion on it, and you're free to agree or disagree with it. But if we run through it, there's 3 items that you're supposed to look at. Number 1 is general welfare, that the approval of this variance will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. I'd say yes, that's been met, that allowing this type of building in this area would not impact those items. Secondly, in terms of adjacent property, that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in this variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. And I'd say yes, that's been met. The garage would be behind the home and near a commercial area. It's not in an area that's governed by an HOA. And again, we're not aware of any remonstrance as of now. Maybe there is some out there that we'll hear of. And then lastly, in terms of practical difficulty, that the strict application of the terms of this chapter will result in a practical difficulty in the use of the property. I'd say that, again, in this particular circumstance, yes, it's been met. And the applicant has been interested in building a metal garage since the fall of 2021, but unfortunately for him, the rules were changed in January 2023. A wood-built garage of this size would be expensive. Again, we're unaware of any remonstrance to this proposal from the neighbors. With that, in terms of a staff recommendation, I would recommend that you approve it with a condition that the west side of the garage must stay 10 feet away from the town water main. This would be for maintenance reasons of that particular line. So he may need, if you were to approve it, he may need to reconfigure the building or adjust the shape of it. But again, it'd have to stay 10 feet from that water line is what we're recommending. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address those. And I know the applicants are here as well. Thank you.
Yes, I do have questions. Can you pull up the map, please, of the one that had all the red on it? No, go back. Keep going, keep going. And again. No, it's the one that had all the red, and you were showing us where the gas line was.
Oh, yeah. Show you her
Water line.
the plot.
The water line, sorry, that's,
There.
yeah, okay, so it's kind of hard to see, is that red box, is that where they're proposing to put
Correct.
the, the
Correct.
barn?
So he's got it about 15 feet from the property line.
Okay,
And if the stipulation were to be adhered to, he'd probably have to be maybe 25 feet from that property line in order to stay 10 feet away from the water line.
okay, and if they shove,
And if they shifted it to the east,
Will it
the
still-
zoning requirement would be a minimum of 5 feet for an
5 feet.
accessory structure. So that would be, he's not requesting any sort of setback variance as part of this. So it would be something that would have to take a look at.
Okay.
But at least conceivably, it would seem to work.
all right, all right. So you said that the height of the building is pretty close to the height of the existing house?
It's pretty close. We don't have exact numbers. So for example, the building itself that he's looking to build it's 12 feet up to the, where the truss.
The plate line,
system is.
okay.
And then it goes up probably another, I don't know, 5 feet maybe to the peak of the roof. So I'd probably put it about 17, 18 feet. And then the house, when I did a basic measurement based on the oblique aerial, it looks like, it's a 1-story home, so it's probably 13, 14 feet. It's not very tall. So
Okay.
There's a potential that this may be a bit taller than
Okay.
the principal structure.
Okay.
No? Is it? Okay. Okay. I'm sorry? House, you're saying the house is how tall? About 21 feet. Okay. And then this would be how tall again? Freshman memory? 16.
So very close. Okay.
Very close. It may not be an issue.
Right, it'd be nice. Okay. The water main, it's still in use, right? It's not an abandoned one,
Correct, in use.
in use. And I know you gave us some pictures and elevations and square footage, but about what is the size over like 24 by 40, 70 by 80? What is it?
Oh, the dimensions? would
Yes.
be 40 by 40. When you include in this overhang that's on the side here.
Oh, okay.
So that'd be under roof. So it'd typically be
A 40 by 40.
included in the square footage number. So 40 by 40.
And in our design standards, do we have anything that addresses what roof pitch is allowed or not allowed, or does
Yeah, the minimum pitch per the residential standards is 6 to 12.
6 to 12 and he's
And-
going 5?
And he's going, it's 4 to 12.
Oh, 412. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. And the existing driveway is gravel currently?
Correct.
Okay. All right. That's all my questions. Anybody else? Okay. We have time to move on then to our petitioner. If they'll come up and add any additional information about the project? None? Well, if you don't have any, that's fine too. Oh, we might, but yeah.
Rainy Chapel. CHAPPELL. I've lived at this property all my life and I've always wanted a garage there. And I have a couple, old classic cars. And I have a tractor that I've restored. And right now, 2 of those items are sitting outside.
Hmm.
And I'd like to have someplace to put them inside.
And you're paying storage.
Yeah, paying storage.
Storage.
So.
Okay. All right.
2 storage units, because we got 2 motorcycles also.
Yeah,
They're in
You're
storage.
out of room.
yeah,
We just want to get stuff inside.
it'd be nice to step out back door and there's my garage. I've been wanting all my life, so
Okay.
basically
Right.
that's all.
Well, go ahead and have a seat, but don't go, does the board have any questions for them?
I do have a question and you may have to respond to it. Adam, the way it's currently laid out, go back to the aerial view of it and where that water main's at. The 10 feet that you are suggesting, does that move the building over?
Yes. It would have the effect that
Move the red box over.
If,
It starts out in the big tree
okay,
in my yard. Then it burns off to the right, to the west.
So it doesn't go all the way through the property.
No, it starts here and it goes over towards the fence. Right there.
Right.
okay.
And Adam, that will come through the building review. How that, the size of the building with the actuality of where it's going to sit, and make sure that it misses and is within the setbacks.
Right, we would just need a little bit more detail on
Okay,
site plan or some pictures as to where that,
It'd be
Water
nice to
line
have them
mark.
locate all the way down to.
yeah,
the
and it's been
water.
located, the town located. Now,
I can't
yeah,
tell exactly, I know.
okay. Oh, okay. We can always remark it if need be,
Yeah.
but, the one thing about the water line is we looked to see if it was in an easement. I mean, because ideally it should be in an easement.
right.
Utility easement or a town easement, but it's not. We couldn't find any paperwork. I don't think the chapels had any paperwork either. It's been there for so long. I think probably like maybe World War II.
Oh,
So it's been a very long time. So it's not uncommon. It is a little uncommon to be on private property, not in an easement, but again, this was
yeah.
done a very long time ago.
Okay.
But we just want to make sure that from a staff perspective and a public works perspective, that there's room to get in there to fix it if it ever breaks. Yeah.
Well,
okay. That's all the questions we have right now. We may call you back up if there's any clarifications. All right, thank you. So now I have time in the agenda for public response for or against, or comments or concerns. Do I have anyone? Okay, it doesn't look like I do. Government officials, anybody have any comments? I see we have one. Yay. You know the drill, say.
Tanya Davis, 402 East Mill Street. This is one of those situations too, where we changed the verbiage and stuff in the comprehensive plan, but my opinion has always been that I don't want to keep people from doing the things that they want to do. So this is a case where that might be, he's coming here to ask for that, but I don't think where it's located is a bad place. It sits behind commercial buildings. It's not in the middle. I'm just referring this to Jake's barn. The difference, because it's the same style or type of barn, but yet it's not as big. And it's in a different location as well. So just keep that in mind. It probably does not match some of the standards, but I don't think it would be out of place or would look absurd like like what happened with Jake's. I'm just saying that consider, and that's what we tried to write in the comprehensive plan, I think, was to make it without putting all the verbiage in there, that you could look at each individual case and see if it belongs. And when you're dealing with, like I said, in town Fortville, the old town Fortville, these people are trying to adapt the properties that they've lived in all their lives to meet their needs and their standards now. So you have to look at that. It's not an HOA and a subdivision with all this other stuff. So I just want to remind you, that's why I'm here.
All right, thank you so much. All right. So with that, well, we didn't have any additional questions, so I won't need to call the petitioner back up. Does the board have any questions or clarifications from Adam at this point? Okay, I'm looking then for a board member to make a motion to approve with conditions, or deny this variance.
Yeah.
No, don't be skittish.
All right, I will make a motion for case number variance 05/2023, 223 West Garden Street from Middle Pole Barn Garage. To approve the variances as submitted.
I'll second.
I would like to, gosh, I'm not even sure. I think we should put a condition in there to move.
Oh, you're right.
Okay.
All right, so.
Amend? I don't know how we do
can I
this. Can
amend
we?
the motion, or do we need to vote it down and,
You
Okay.
can amend it.
okay. I would like to amend the motion for case number variance 05/2023, 223 West Garden Street, Metal Pole Barn Garage. With the condition that the metal pole barn is 10 feet. The west side of the garage must stay 10 feet away from the tower water main as located.
All right, do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Congratulations. Give us 1 minute here to do a quick paperwork.
Yeah, leave up the condition.
Oh, yeah, I'll do that
Just so you guys
later.
know, the next step in the process is we just gotta finish up the permit and then we'll get that issued. So stay tuned. And we might have to, like I said, that like they said, we'll have to adjust the location a bit because of that. Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, yeah. Good. Good.
Okay. When everyone is finished with their paperwork, just pass it my direction. All right, in the meantime, let me find my, here we go, my agenda. We have one last case on our agenda tonight. It's variance 06-2023 North Merrill Street, Gateway Community Church. Adam, would you give us that presentation, please?
Okay, so the last case tonight involves a sign variance request. This particular request is for property that's on North Merrill Street. And it's on basically the northwest edge of town. It'd be the south side between Wilson's Farm Drive and Marie Lane. The entire property is just shy of 8 acres in size, and it's one parcel. And the owners of that parcel is the Gateway Community Church in trust for the United Methodist Church. The zoning on the property, and this is important for this case, is residential 2.5 or 2.5. And the use of the property is agriculture farmland. So simply put, Gateway Community Church is located at the former Methodist Church at 125 East Stat Street. And they own this property on Merrill Street, and they'd like to post a sign on this Merrill Street property to promote events at their church. And the wood sign would be approximately 9 feet high and 10 feet wide. I'll show you momentarily. And they would like to have a banner affixed to it, which would be periodically changed out. In order to do this, as they propose, variances are needed. So taking a look at the map here, you can see the parcel outline in blue. Over to the west is the Northwest Fortville subdivision that's under construction. And then over to the east is the historic home as you pass come into town from Hamilton County. Take a look at the aerial, you can see, and it's just farmland today. There's no development on the site. And then as you're driving into Fortville, you can see it's off to your right. If we take a look at the zoning, you can see that again, it's residential 2.5. This was a zoning that was carried over from Hancock County when the property was annexed, and the property was annexed at the same time that Northwest Fortville was annexed into town. And of course, in terms of surrounding property, that's zone planned unit development to the south and to the west, and then across the street. On the north side of Merrill, that is also residential 2.5, but it's in Hancock County. If we take a look at the rendering of what they'd like to do, again, you can see it would be a sign that have Gateway Community Church on it, and where they would like to put the seasonal banner. Again, 10 feet wide, and we're looking at about 9 feet to the top of the decorative cap. And in terms of where they'd like to position it on the property, I believe it looks like they'd want to put it parallel to the roadway facing outward. So specifically in terms of the variances that are requested from the zoning ordinance, there's two of them. The first one is, as I mentioned, the zoning is residential 2.5. So the maximum size sign that's allowed would be 6 square feet in area or 4 feet in height. And then in terms of the banner sign, banners cannot exceed 24 square feet in area and shall be limited to 30 days of use in any 3-month period. In terms of public input on this, as of now, we're not aware of any remonstrance to this. All the public notice requirements have been met, included the sign, newspaper publication, and the mailing. And then much like the last case, there's 3 particular items that you're asked to consider in your decision, and items in text is my professional opinion that you're free to adopt or disagree with. First, in terms of general welfare, that test, I would say that yes, it's been met, that allowing this type of a sign in this area would not impact those particular items. In terms of adjacent property, is the use and the value of the area adjacent to the property, would that be affected in an adverse manner? I'd say that yes, that test has been met, provided the sign is well maintained. It would not be negative to aesthetics or property values. And then the last one would be practical difficulty. I'd say that yes, there is a practical difficulty that's been met. The applicant owns the property in question and would like to express their free speech rights for their religious institution. The property happens to be zoned R2.5, and the zoning regulations were crafted for residential properties, usually in a subdivision, not necessarily for a large church-owned 7-acre property like this one. So with that, my recommendation would be to approve it with a basic condition to say that the sign overall must be well-maintained, neat, and clean, and that the banners shall be free of rips and tears and replaced or removed if fading. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address those, and applicant is here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Okay, we have time on the agenda then for the petitioner, if they're here tonight, to come up and add any additional information or comment. I'm looking to find who it is in the audience. Please say and state your name, please, and your address.
I'm Rick Smigelski. I'm the father of the son of the pastor. So he's my son. So that's why I'm here. I'm the designer builder. I'm not the owner. So
Okay, thank you.
speaking in that regard. What we're looking at is just having a sign where we can let people know that Christmas services are from such and such, and on what day, and Easter. Right now, we're looking at our preschool enrollment period, so we'd like to get something like that out. We are looking at putting flowers around this and maybe some more decorative, maybe some rock in the front, just to dress it up a little bit. Maybe even a bush on the side, just to make it aesthetically pleasing. So that's basically what we're looking at doing. It's not something that's a permanent sign. But it's just something that we'd like the community to be aware of, and what we're doing and what's going on. After we have an event that incorporates all the community where they're invited, we'd like, that's kind of what our banner would say.
All right,
That's
thank you. Don't go away yet. Does any board member have any questions or comments? I guess I have a couple.
Go ahead.
Oh, you have one too? Go ahead.
You said it's not gonna be a permanent structure. What do you mean?
We're not going to encase the posts in the concrete, but they will be down probably about 3 feet or so, 3-4 feet. So it is something that could be easily removed in the future. It will be stained and maintained. And the banner is a temporary banner, which will be changed out with the seasons.
And Adam, you said the banner thing is 30 days, no more than 3 months. So 3 times? They can do
Yeah.
it 3 times a year?
Yep,
That
let's
way-
go back to that. The code restriction is banners can't exceed 24 square feet in area and they shall be limited to 30 days of use in any 3-month period. This is the way that was written. I think it was carried over from the county, maybe.
All right, I have a question, or actually just more of a comment. Adam, you mentioned that this was going parallel to the road?
At least that's what they're showing here. I don't know if you wanted to have it perpendicular to the roadway, so it's
I think
either.
probably more.
Probably.
perpendicular
I would
Yeah.
too, but
Because
Yeah.
you wouldn't-
more readability.
Would be able
Because
to-
of speed,
Yeah.
based
Yeah.
upon the speed of the traffic, kind of also dictates the size of your letters,
Yes.
and your distance that you're gonna view it, and that's how we came up with the 10-foot wide. But basically the sign, the banner itself is about 8 foot, but by the time you put the posts in on both sides, you know, you're getting up to around 10 foot then.
Okay. And I know you may not have an answer to this, but probably going to be changing the banner out 10 to 12 times a year, 2 to 3
I
times.
think that's reasonable.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And sometimes there may not be a banner up at all, you know, like, so we can meet the requirement on days number of days that could be up in a 3-month period.
So you're saying 90 days, basically, they can have a banner.
Is that?
Although they're seeking a variance. We threw that into the variance request.
For relief.
For relief.
Okay.
From that, so you could have it longer
Oh,
if that's what you
Well,
want to
thank
do,
Yeah.
but
We'll
it's up
take
to- yeah.
sure.
Okay. Any other clarifications for him?
Yeah, real quick, what is
Okay.
the proposed offset of the sign from the roadway?
Well, there is a water main there and we're
Okay.
not exactly sure where it is, but we want to be sure that it's probably 15 feet off the water main. And it looks like the water main is actually off the right of way, farther inland. So we want to make sure that we're far enough away from that. Once we get the water main located, then we can specifically say how far back it could be. But we don't want it right near the road either because that obscures traffic, and causes other problems. So I guess once we know where that water main is at, we get that located and then be at about 15 feet away from that.
Okay.
Adam, does it have to adhere to the setbacks signage, or does it have its own, or?
No, for in Fortville, the signs can go right up to the property line.
Oh.
So in terms of the separation from the water line, what I would offer in this case, it's not as critical as the last one because it's temporary, and if it needed to be moved, I'm sure it could. But to your point, it's a good strategy to keep it away from that conflict.
Okay.
Was there a comparison? I'm just curious, because this is being used agricultural. What if this were zoned ag? What the requirements on a sign banner would look like?
Or is there any?
Or is there any
That's a
restriction
good-
at all? Yeah, that'd be good.
That's a good question. The banner restriction is regardless of zoning district.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't have the code handy to know
Sure.
what agriculture is
Okay. I'm just curious.
offhand.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, if you'll have a seat, we may call you back up, but we may not. All right, does any government officials have any comments? Nope, okay. Last clarifications or questions from the board to Adam? All right, then I am looking for a motion to approve with the condition that was stated by Adam, or deny.
I'll move to approve with the conditions stated by Adam.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, congratulations. Let's see, I think that was the last thing on our list. Make sure I'm not forgetting something here. I guess I want to thank everybody for coming to tonight's meeting, and I'm looking for
Just say per staff condition.
conditions
I'll
per staff.
report it.
Oh, yeah, don't forget out your paperwork. I'm too many boards. Okay.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay, we'll pass these down. All right, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, good night, everyone.
Thanks,
Nathan
Alex.
did, Nathan seconded it, seconded it. Did you
Yeah.
second? Seconded, I don't know. Okay.